Hey everyone, so I wanted to show you a quick video of how I get these crisp lines when I'm dyeing fabric. You can see here, this was one of the very first pieces that I did where it looked really good. Like the dark parts are completely dark and you've got this crisp white line. And I just want to talk a little bit about how I got that because I feel like I struggled for a long time trying to figure this out, and there's two parts to it. First, the actual tying, and then second, figuring out how to dye it so you'll get it like this. And here's another example. This one was tied with multiple rings, and as you can see, it still looks good on the outer rings, but they aren't quite as crisp and white. I think that's kind of inevitable because right here, when you tie this part, it's not very thick, but by the time you get all the way down here, that's a whole lot of fabric that you have to try to get in there tight. I know some people do it and they have like lots of crisp little lines in here. I have never been able to accomplish that, so I'll just leave it to the professionals. But when I get something like this, I'm quite happy. Look down here, those colors are pretty cool. But this is also a really thick fabric. This is 400 GSM. No, I think this is 400 GSM bamboo fleece from Nature's Fabrics. So that is quite thick. So if you can get good results with this thick fabric, you can absolutely get good results with bamboo velour, any thinner knits. So let me just show you how I do this. I have a really big piece, this might be a yard, big piece of bamboo fleece. And I'm gonna start in the middle, and I think I'm just gonna go for like mid-sized bubbles like this. It's a good scale for cloth pads. So yeah, let me show you what I use. This is artificial sinew from Dharma Trading Company. So I don't know anything about if this is in stock right now or not. That's just where I got it. So maybe they'll have leads for a different source if they don't have any right now. So how I'm using the artificial sinew and a PVC pipe as my puller. I know some people use really fancy wooden specially made rods, but I haven't found that to be necessary for myself. But also, if you are watching this and you're a professional at this and you want to give me tips, I'll always take them, because I feel like it's kind of hard to get real information from the people who are really good at this, because they, for good reason, need to protect their craft if they're making a living off of it. So, I mean, I'm not going to, I'm not looking down on anyone for keeping their secrets if they feel like they need to do that. So okay, so I'm just gonna start with a bit of a tail here, and then I'm gonna wrap this around 4 times. Kind of experimented and figured out that 4 is enough to get the white lines. So you wrap it around 4 times, just give it a little tug, and then I come here with my thumb, I pull it about a foot, and then I wrap it around 3 times really quick. And so as you watch here, I'm not pulling on the string with my fingers. I'm pulling on the fabric with my hands, and I'm pulling on the pipe with my hands. And I pull it until it won't pull anymore. So it's probably gonna do a few pops while it's tightening, and then you can try it again. And then that's sufficient. It'll give you a nice white line in there. If you're pulling and you're snapping it, then you're doing a good job, but you can just dial that back a little bit. Doesn't need to be quite so tight. What's next? And then I just try to pinch another spot that usually about the same amount, because when you're dyeing it, it's nice if your whole piece could be like the same amount of thickness so that you're getting an even, like on this one. I want the whole thing to look pretty much the same. So if you had a really big circle here and a really little circle, You might get unintended white spots, or the little circle could get totally blacked out. So that's just my personal preference at the moment, but you can always experiment. That's the nice thing about tie-dye, is a hobby and a craft. You never know what to expect when you untie it. So just a little pull to kind of lock it in. And then I know this is probably not the most efficient way to be doing this, but it's how I keep my hands from hurting. They don't hurt. So yeah, maybe somebody else could chime in and be like, here's how you're supposed to do this and it's way faster. I'll take that. But as long as you find a way that works for you and you build up the muscle memory for it, it doesn't really matter what you do. You get faster. Little tug. So this spool, I usually just let it hit the floor, and then it'll be rolling around while I pull on it. I forgot to mention, sometimes, here's another piece of fabric. Just lay that there as a cushion, and then when you're pulling, get this out of here. It's another example of this method. So, okay, wrap it a couple times so that it won't slip. Then you could like set your hand on here and then just pull with the other hand. And then you don't have to worry about your hand hitting the table or anything else and scuffing up your skin. So you could use a towel or something. That always works nice. So we've got 3 done and plenty to go. What other tips? If you really want to put a lot of time into it to get really interesting organic lines, do a couple loose wraps and then go in here and like pull one in one direction, one fold in the other direction, so then you'll kind of get like a zigzagged line. It definitely makes it more interesting when you do that. It takes more time though, so you decide what you want to put up with. If you have designated TV time where you know that you'll be sitting in front of the TV the same time every day, this is a good hobby for that. Sitting here doing this, or car rides. Yeah, so hope that this can help somebody if they're interested in that method, because it took me a long time to figure out how to get the nice white lines. I've tried zip ties. They can work, but they're really difficult to get off. I've found if you're going to use zip ties to do this, then you need pliers to pull them tight enough. And then like cat nail trimming scissors are good to clip the part that holds the zip tie together. So that can work in a pinch. You might find that you like the zip tie method better, but I think you can get faster with sinew than you can with zip ties. So I'm trying to like pull it closer to these other circles so there's not as much negative space in between the circles. So let me know what you think. If you've done this before and you have any tips for me, that'd be great. But if not, maybe it could help you. So let me know what colors you're interested in. If you're looking for fabric, I know purple, pink, blues are always going to be a favorite and popular. So I'll try to do some of those. And what else could I chat about for a minute? Oh, yeah. So right after I made the Facebook group for selling dyed fabric, our well stopped working, and I had a couple pieces of fabric that were ready to rinse, and I immediately got up. I was so excited, and I went downstairs in our basement where I rinse stuff, and I turned on the faucet and there was no water. I was so disappointed and confused. And then I saw a message from my husband that he'd called a plumber. And yeah, so long story short, I think it's been like 9 or 10 days without water. And we finally had a new well drilled today, and they're plumbing it tomorrow. So hopefully we will have some water soon, and I can get back to dyeing fabrics and rinsing out the ones that have already been dyed. So yeah, just kind of funny timing. And so the second part to dyeing these bubbles successfully, or geodes, whatever you want to call them, is you have to like get the insides of this fabric totally saturated. So that's where I would be disappointed. I frequently was. Let me show you an example. I think most of these are pretty well saturated. Let me see. So those look good. Pretty white lines in there. Yeah, I need a different fabric. So on this one, I had really big bubbles. And I definitely would have liked better saturation through here because it's kind of splotchy. It's still interesting and cool, but from a distance, I personally like to have better saturation than that, so it looks like a crisp line. But yeah, you just have to experiment. And I highly suggest, if you're dyeing fabrics and you actually want to learn from what you're doing, that you only do one piece at a time. I feel like I wasted so much time doing like 7 or 8 pieces of fabric at a time, and then I wouldn't record the colors that I used or document anything about the process, because in the moment you feel like you're gonna remember what you did, and usually you don't remember because it's been 2 days since you did it, and then there's 7 of them. You don't remember anything. So I feel like I didn't really learn much from those pieces of fabric because I couldn't remember what I did. So yeah, just do one at a time. That's what I'm doing right now, is one piece of fabric at a time. And then part of my goal now is to like video document what I'm doing so that I can go back and recreate what I've done and possibly inspire others to discover new ways to dye. So yeah, there we go. I'm just gonna keep going like that in front of the TV probably. And I think I'm gonna ice dye it. That's kind of my preference these days because it gives some really nice organic results. I think this was ice dyed. I can't quite remember. But it definitely looks like it with the detail in here. I found when you liquid dye, there's not as much detail. So I'm not a huge fan of liquid dyeing, where you mix up the color in water. But yeah, well, thanks for watching this so far. I didn't intend to make such a long, rambling video, but I hope that you and your family are doing well, and I'll be back soon with more interesting videos to watch.